This is a little demo of how to make a frequency chart and histogram using Excel. We're working with a problem representing identity coherence scores, or scores representing how much someone feels self-aware, self-accepting, feels that they're competent, and feels that they know what their role is in society. So this is a demo of how to do this in Excel, and we'll just follow these 4 steps. Our first step is to use Excel to find the minimum, maximum, and range. So let's go ahead and do that. To make it easier for grading, I'm going to number the problem and write min, max, range so that it's easier for the instructor. Next, I'll write the minimum. And the formula for that is equal sign. And you can just use min for minimum. That's the official version. And you can see it listed here if you use your function button. Put your opening parenthesis. Once again, that will appear right here in the cell and also up in your formula bar where you can see the cursor. You don't need to type in the cell numbers. You can place your cursor in the top cell. Hold your Control-Shift keys down while you press the arrow in the direction you want to go, in this case, the down arrow. So Control-Shift down arrow selects all the cells until the next blank cell, and then you can hit Enter. You'll see I wrote that down over here in case that went too fast for you. Next, we'll do maximum, and you can guess what the formula is for that. If you guess that you should write your equal sign and then write max, you guessed correctly. And then you put your opening parenthesis to tell Excel what it is you want the maximum of. Place your cursor in the top cell, hold Control-Shift down arrow, and Enter. So now we know that our data range from 14 to 58. Let's figure out the range. The range is just the maximum minus the minimum. Use the formula for this. Let's take 58 minus 14, and we can see that we have a range of 44. And that will help us know how many clusters when we're doing our official histogram and frequency chart. So we see that the range of 44 is far too many to use a simple frequency chart, because we would have to have 44 rows of data and 44 bars in our frequency table, in our histogram, and that's too much. So we know we're going to have to cluster these. So now we've done number 1. Let's go to number 2, create a clustered frequency chart. And it says by hand, but we're doing it in Excel. So let's go ahead and write clustered frequency chart. If you're doing this assignment for class, it says to do it in Excel, and that's what we should follow. So the clustered frequency chart is going to work like this, and this is the way to do it in Excel. The instructions that I'm doing here are all written on the side here. So if I'm moving too quickly for you and you like to see these directions, this will help you. We're going to go to Insert, and that's up in this gray tab here. And once we open the Insert tab, we can select Pivot Chart. You'll see it in your chart menu. If you have a smaller screen, this might be compressed, in which case you have to put this down arrow in order to see this option. It's here on mine. If you were pressing this down arrow, then you would have to, scroll down and scroll over until you got to what you were looking for. As it is, mine is appearing right here. So let's go ahead and choose Pivot Chart and Pivot Table. And it's asking you what range you want to have. So let's just go ahead and select the range from including the header. So we're going to place our cursor up in that top cell while we're inside this cell in this menu option. Hold your Control-Shift down arrow to select all the relevant data and hit Enter. And you can see that in my case, it inserted this right here, which is exactly where I want it. But I want to show you how to do that because it might not put it right there. The way to get Excel to put it right where you want it is to make sure that you have your cursor placed where you want it. Typically, Excel wants to put it in a new sheet. We usually don't want that. So I'm going to demo this one more time. We're going to the Insert menu. We're selecting Pivot Chart and Pivot Table. We can see where our cursor was when we started. That's showing up right here. That's asking you where you want it, but by default, you'll see this new worksheet pressed. So you want to tell it existing worksheet and then select that cell. And then you also may need to select your data range. You want to include the header. So this identity coherence scores, you want to include that. So you can see now it's in cell C10. And that's right where this first row is. And you could just use that Control-Shift down arrow to select all the relevant data. And now we can simply hit Enter. And you'll see you'll be going, oh, alas, there's nothing there. So let's go on now and get this generated. So you can see now we're in how to generate data in chart. This is your variable. You want this variable to represent the categories, but you also want it to represent the values because you want it to count the number of scores in each category. And so now we have a start on getting in the right direction. But when you look at this, you're going to see this is not exactly what we want, because what we have here is the sum of identity coherence scores. We don't want the sum, we want the frequency or the count. So to fix that, you need to go to the right arrow here where it says sum. Click on that. You'll have this menu pop up. Choose value field settings from the menu, and then just change sum to count, which is another way of saying frequency, and click OK. Now you'll see we have quite a change in our frequency table, but you'll also see that they made a mistake that we would not make in this class. We know that if we're going to have a simple frequency table, we have to list every value. So here it says 14, 16, 17. We know that's not appropriate. The 15 needs to be included, even though the answer is 0. We need to have every single value represented. That would be an unuseful table or histogram for us. So we want to make sure and use groups. So what we do next is we are going to just, you can see where my cursor is here. It's in the top row of data, not the header row, but the top row of data. When it's here, right click, and from the menu that comes up, select group. Once you select group, you want to tell Excel what exactly groups you want. And for this class, we're going to always not start at an awkward number like 14. We're going to take that minimum and round it down. So rounding down to the next round number would put us at 10. So we're going to start at 10. And let's go ahead and change that. And then we're going to end. We also want to round up on this one. We have 58 as the highest number. Let's make that 60. And it's asking by. What do we want it by? We want it group sizes of 5. I'll recommend you do this for yours as well. That'll give us a nice group of clusters that will be meaningful, around, what are we going to have here? 50. We're going to have around 10 groups, and that'll be the right amount. So let's change this to 5 and hit OK, and let's see what happens. So now you can see that now we have nice row labels, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and so forth. So this looks good to me. I think that's all fine. And then you could see it also represented in this histogram. Now let's drag this histogram over to where we need it and make this nice and organized for your instructor. Item 3 in your instruction says to create this histogram. We're demonstrating how to do this in Excel. So let's write this 3 histogram. And you may want to change the title of this histogram. It's a wise thing to do to make the data meaningful. In this case, this is identity coherence scores. Identity coherence scores. And let's just put for females, 5 years post-puberty. And that's fine. And we don't really need to go through a lot of trouble labeling it because this is for an assignment. So let's go ahead and do number 4. Describe the shape of the histogram in terms of skew, kurtosis, and symmetry. Decide whether it appears to be approximately normal. So we'll go ahead and do that for describe shape. And I think this looks nice and normal. So we're actually going to say normal with symmetry, no kurtosis. Kurtosis is, remember, those really either fat tails or long skinny tails. We don't have any of that going on. And What else does it say up here? I lost track of it. Skew. Oh, we don't have any skew going on here either. That's when you have a long tail in one direction. No kurtosis, no skew, and we do have symmetry. I see that I made a little typo here. That R got snuck in there. Let's get that out. And this problem is done. And these instructions are here for you if you need any additional support with that.